The woman's voice quivered in the dim, confined passageway, laced with urgency and terror. Drops of rain shimmered on the fractured sidewalk, gathering under her shaking form. A vehicle's beams flashed from behind the advancing silhouette, stretching his elongated shadow over the bricks like a menacing beast. The man's strides were unhurried, purposeful. His hands balled into fists, his respiration labored. She huddled more compactly, her pale outfit stained with grime and sorrow, fair locks sticking to her skin. Her left foot was severely inflamed, bent in an awkward position. She grimaced, attempting to shift, but the agony brought new droplets cascading down her face. Just then, from the bend at the passage's far end, a figure emerged, broad-shouldered, sturdy, holding a young child bundled in a worn golden slicker. His attire was threadbare, his footwear damp, his face weary. Yet upon catching the plea, so vulnerable, so shattered, he halted. The child moved slightly in his embrace. "Papa, is she going to perish?" she murmured. The man placed her carefully on the pavement. "Remain here," he instructed quietly but resolutely. She agreed, hugging a tiny plush bunny close. Without pause, he advanced into the passage. His tone echoed deeply, authoritative. "Back off from her." Immediately. The figure towering above the woman pivoted, surprised. For an instant, strain hung in the moisture-laden atmosphere. But the newcomer's stare, keen, unwavering, piercing, fixed upon him. There was an element in that look that halted the assailant instantly. Not dread, not fury. Merely serene assurance. The potential aggressor retreated a pace, then one more. And silently, he pivoted and vanished into the gloom. The fair-haired woman gazed in astonishment, her inhale stuttering as the man neared. Her body shook, not solely from discomfort, but from astonishment. The child glanced from the passage's opening, her gaze expansive. A bolt illuminated the sky. A rumble followed. The man crouched next to the woman, his tone gentle now. "You're secure. I have you." She regarded him, mouth ajar, speechless. She didn't know his identity yet. But in that instant, a shift occurred. And although she couldn't rise, though she was injured and marked, she had just been noticed. And her existence was on the verge of transforming eternally. Tyler Ford resided on the third level of a decaying residential structure where the partitions murmured with remnants of fatigued existences. At 31, his world had been divided into pre- and post-loss of his spouse. 2 years prior, illness claimed her swiftly, mercilessly. From that point, all centered on Lily. He labored as a laundry appliance technician, accepting tasks that provided sufficient funds to maintain electricity and provisions. Most shifts, he carried the scent of corroded conduits and cleanser, but it didn't bother him. Provided Lily possessed drawing tools, hot dishes, and a protected spot to rest, he could endure the sore limbs and overdue payments. Formerly, Tyler had donned a distinct outfit. He served as an emergency responder, a blaze fighter with medical skills, possessing resolve of iron, and a spirit conditioned to charge toward peril. A lengthy mark adorned his left limb, a memento from a blazing residence where he'd extracted a young child from the inferno. He seldom discussed it. Certain recollections weren't for celebration. They were for bearing in silence. Now, he bore his offspring, Lily, 6 years of age, with untamed ringlets and a chuckle that could dispel gloom from a space. She always carried her tattered container of drawing sticks. "Hues improve everything," she often declared. She adorned their dwelling with illustrations, blossoms, arcs of color, simple forms grasping palms. Her realm was compact but vibrant. That stormy evening, Tyler had vowed her a reward, a sausage from the nearby vendor if she acted well during the market errand. They had just veered into a rear pathway to shortcut the area when they detected it. A cry, a female's tone quaking, imploring. That evening, Isabel Monroe hadn't planned to flee. But when her betrothed, David Langston, the financial director of her firm, secured the lodging chamber entrance after him and started elevating his volume, an inner resolve fractured. For weeks, he'd urged her to transfer authority over vital resources in their shared possessions. The union formed a corporate tactic, her parents' scheme, to solidify supremacy in the innovation sector. But Isabel wasn't designed for confinement. She refused, and when his grasp seized her arm, she snatched the device containing the damning records and escaped shoeless into the downpour. She had never dashed that way previously, not via backstreets, not with her pulse racing like a pursued creature's. She lost footing, her foot buckled, she collapsed harshly onto the chilly, slick surface. Nonetheless, she pressed the device to her torso as though it were her sole salvation. Because it was. Now, her inhales arrived in bursts. The ache in her limb obscured her sight. Her elegant pale ensemble was destroyed, ripped at the seam, drenched completely. Her communication tool had vanished someplace on the road. The individual she once relied on was nearing. She could detect his footfalls. And that was when she spotted him. Tyler transported her wordlessly. The precipitation had reduced to a mist by the time they arrived at his structure. Isabel's form shivered from chill and trauma. She gripped the device firmly to her torso, her hold unyielding even as torment emanated from her foot. Tyler uttered nothing, merely repositioned her in his hold to protect her more effectively from the breeze. "It's fine," he stated, easing her onto the sofa. "You're protected here." Lily arrived shortly after, stepping lightly through the entry in her wet footwear. She clutched her animal in one limb and observed Isabel inquisitively. Her expression wasn't alarmed, merely earnest, the sort only a youth can display. Then she inclined her head and inquired, "Papa, why is she weeping like I do when I long for Mama?" Tyler stiffened. Isabel's inhale faltered. She averted her face, as if the phrases had struck a hidden vulnerability, her digits clenched on the sofa's rim. She desired to respond, but couldn't. "She's experienced a tough period, dear," Tyler remarked softly. "Occasionally adults weep as well." Lily assented gravely, then strolled toward her chamber, her small footwear squealing with each movement. Tyler fetched a fresh cloth and draped it tenderly around Isabel's upper body. "I'll prepare something heated." "Rue, all right?" She assented silently. He vanished into the cooking area. Isabel reclined into the pillows, still moist, still frigid. Her foot ached. Her spirit hurt more intensely. She had occupied high-rises, opulent retreats, executive chambers paneled with fine wood. None of those venues had resembled this, compact, flawed, but infused with an indefinable essence. It unnerved her. In the depths of night, Isabel roused abruptly. The space was shadowy, save for a faint illumination from the corridor. Her foot throbbed, but the discomfort was bearable now. Stillness enveloped the residence. No alarms, no pursuits trailing her, no one yelling. She upright herself, uncertain of her slumber duration. The covering that had shielded her had fallen to the ground. Her device, still grasped during rest, lay beside her. Remorse weighed on her core. She had intruded into an unfamiliar person's existence, upset all. She lacked entitlement. Gradually, she stood, suppressing a gasp as her soul contacted the surface. She hobbled toward the exit, aiming to depart before sunrise. No messages, no gratitude. Merely vanish. But as she extended for her footwear by the entrance, she paused. They weren't damp any longer. They had been meticulously dried and mended. The detached base had been sewn with precise, intentional threads. Beside them was a folded cloth, fresh and toasty. Atop it, a tiny sheet of parchment. The script was coarse, but firm. "Your limb isn't improved yet. You may remain. It's fine." Isabel gazed at it for an extended period. No stipulations. No demands. No cost. Just compassion. She descended gradually to the floor, the sheet quivering in her grasp. Throughout her existence, she had battled to validate herself. To be adequate. Astute enough. Resilient enough. But here, in a minuscule residence with a faulty plank near the basin and sketched images on every surface, she experienced something absent from her towering realm. Embraced for no more than existing. The initial dawn following, Isabel awoke to the subtle hum of a pot and the gentle rattle of utensils from the compact cooking space. For a brief time, she believed she remained in her elevated home, with attendants readying morning fare per routine. But then she noticed the simple sofa under her, the faded drapes swaying from a breeze, and the sketches affixed across the cooling unit. She was no longer in her domain. Tyler emerged bearing a hot cup. He set it on a modest stand next to her. The pungent aroma of spice permeated the atmosphere. "Consume this," he directed, his tone composed. It'll assist with the discomfort. She elevated herself gradually, assessing her harmed foot. It still pulsed, but the enlargement appeared reduced from the prior evening. She tasted the brew. It was zesty. Potent. Strangely soothing. You prepared this personally? She questioned, nearly astonished. Ancient practice, he responded, positioning himself on the edge of the low table with a coil of wraps. Spice infusion. Pure liquid. Firm grip. That's occasionally all required. Without further comment, he carefully elevated her limb onto his knee. His contact was stable but cautious, never prolonging, never intrusive. He unwound the prior wrap, cleansed the injury, and commenced rebandaging it. Isabel observed quietly. She had been encircled by aides and consultants for ages, but none had tended to her this way. Not with endurance. Not with focus. Not without anticipation. You've performed this previously, she whispered. He assented once. Emergency duties. Blazes. Incidents. You acquire the skill to remain composed, even when fragmenting internally. Her gaze mellowed. She wished to inquire further, but before she could, he extended for her outer garment, damaged from the conflict in the pathway. He retrieved a compact mending set from the ledge and started threading a pin. You needn't, she began. I understand, he interjected mildly, but it's valuable to repair. The strand was slightly irregular, the seams imperfect. Nevertheless, he labored with such concentration that something within Isabel's core unlocked. The droplets emerged abruptly. Inescapable. She shielded her face with her palms, embarrassed. Tyler halted. Did I cause pain? She denied with her head, her tone fracturing. No. I'm unaccustomed to this. Receiving care. He didn't urge her to elaborate, he merely offered her a wipe and stated, I'll merit it, including you. That was when tiny footfalls pattered over the surface. Lily materialized, her locks in wild spirals, her sleepwear adorned with celestial bodies. She clutched a sheet tightly to her torso. Without delay, she approached and positioned it in Isabel's lap. This is yours, Lily announced triumphantly. Isabel unfurled the sheet. It was a vivid sketch, hues saturating the page. A lofty figure with dark strands, a young child in golden footwear, and adjacent and vacant contour of a female with golden locks. Puzzled, Isabel glanced upward. Who is this? Lily beamed, indicating the shape. That's you. I kept the area blank for ages, awaiting someone who fits. I believe it's meant for you now. Isabel's airway constricted. Her hands trembled as she grasped the image. Darling, she murmured, grappling for phrases. Why me? Because you're present, Lily replied plainly. And you appear as someone requiring kin. Isabel emitted a noise that was part chuckle, part weep. She pressed the image to her torso as droplets flowed openly. For an extended period, her existence had been an arena of meetings, agreements, and obligations. She had been characterized by figures, influence, and facades. No one had ever reserved a spot for her, only requirements for what she must evolve into. Yet here, in this confined residence, with flaking coating and the noise of a youth's drawing tools scraping across parchment, she was being presented something unfamiliar. A position. She regarded Tyler, who positioned silently in the threshold, observing the interaction. His demeanor was inscrutable, but his gaze conveyed all. Approval, endurance, and a subdued optimism he refrained from voicing. Isabel returned to Lily, achieving a grin amid her droplets. Gratitude, dear. That's the most generous present I've ever received. Lily chuckled and retrieved her hue container. Then I'll finalize it. Violet gown, correct? Isabel assented, chuckling gently through her sorrow. Yes, render it violet. And as Lily completed the vacant contour with daring marks of hue, Isabel sensed something release within her. Something tender. Something vital. For the initial occasion in years, she grasped what it signified to fit. Isabel's foot was recovering gradually. Each dawn delivered a bit more vigor, a bit less agony. But mobility remained challenging. She despised the sensation of fragility, of requiring aid. But Tyler never caused her to feel diminished for it. He extended his limb without remark, allowed her to support on him as they navigated the residence. When she faltered, he stabilized her. When she flinched, he stopped. There was no compassion in his deeds. Just attendance. And endurance. Merely one movement at a time, he'd articulate mildly, his tone subdued and serene. Isabel would assent, concentrating on the cadence of their progression. Movement, inhale, equilibrium. It evolved into their hushed routine, a pattern of reliance that neither vocalized. One bright weekend dawn, Lily proclaimed it was moment to prepare flapjacks. Papa creates them decently, she expressed with an overstated gesture. But I wager Isabel creates them elegant. I wouldn't rely on it, Isabel cautioned with a grin. I've never truly prepared anything personally. Lily's gaze expanded. Never? No. Not even bread slices. Tyler elevated a brow. That's set to alter. They assembled in the compact cooking area, limbs colliding as they blended mixture in a fractured pottery vessel. Lily positioned on a seat to access the surface, her ringlets leaping with enthusiasm as she issued commands like an experienced cook. Additional liquid, not excessive ovals, and await the air pockets before turning. Isabel attempted to adhere to the guidance, but the initial flapjack adhered. The next one collapsed inward. The third one inexplicably ignited. Tyler grabbed the vessel from the heat, fluttering a cloth at the slender vapor trail. I believe that one's yours, he quipped, pushing the charred mass toward Isabel's dish. They all chortled, genuine mirth that originated from the depths, resonant and unrestrained. It permeated the cooking space like radiance. When they ultimately settled to consume, the flapjacks were uneven, somewhat scorched, some even uncooked centrally. But Lily smiled as she consumed a large portion. These are silly flapjacks, she stated, but silly is fine. They consumed leisurely, permitting the warm glow to cascade over the surface. Beyond the pain, the metropolis continued busily, but within, duration appeared to gentle. Lily prattled about learning, how she'd nearly triumphed the word contest, how her instructor wore footwear with felines, how she'd informed the group that Isabel was her, perhaps fresh guardian. Isabel paused for a fraction, eyes connecting Tyler's across the surface. He didn't respond, merely extended and added more sweetener to Lily's dish as if it were utterly ordinary. That dusk, after Lily had drifted off encircled by tinting volumes and soft creatures, Isabel and Tyler positioned on the sofa, observing the gentle glimmer of vehicle lights from the path beneath. The screen was inactive, the stillness among them was abundant, not vacant. Isabel drew the covering nearer, her form still fatigued from rehearsing movements earlier. Without consideration, she inclined laterally and placed her head on Tyler's upper arm. He remained still. She could sense the consistent rhythm of his core beneath her face, the heat of his attendance anchoring her. You don't realize, she murmured, but you've rescued me from numerous elements. Her tone was scarcely more than air, but he perceived her. He didn't pivot, didn't question her intent. He merely stated, I didn't rescue anybody. I just observed someone requiring assistance. She sealed her lids. That response, subdued, truthful, unpretentious, pierced through all the clamor she'd endured for ages. No one had ever regarded her and perceived an individual before. They'd perceived chance, plan, achievement. But Tyler, he perceived someone suffering, and rather than departing, he remained. And that, she comprehended, was what affection might genuinely be. Not elaborate actions, but the readiness to remain motionless with someone until they could progress again. It commenced with a communicator sounding in the passage, then the vibration at the main entrance, then the rap, resonant, assertive, overly recognizable. Isabel stiffened, her palms still foamy from cleansing vessels. Tyler peered out the pane, then swiftly sealed the drape. Stay put, he remarked serenely. She didn't need to inquire. The instant she spotted the smooth dark vehicle stationed on the road she recognized. They had located her. Within periods, additional appeared. A recorder operator, a female in a fitted coat with a speaker, a male from judiciary attired in a neckwear that shouted crisis management. The walkway outside the residence turned into a subtle display. Tyler positioned by the entrance, limbs crossed over his torso, form obstructing the viewer. From the sleeping area, Lily's tone summoned softly, why are individuals external? It's fine, dear, Isabel stated, attempting to maintain her tone firm. They're merely misplaced. Later that dusk, as the informants wearied and the raps diminished into quiet, Isabel obtained a communication from the council. A proposal. A lavish one. Vast sums in reimbursement. Complete restoration. Renaming. Image oversight. All she needed was to return, endorse the documents, beam for the lenses, and feign none of it occurred. She gazed at the communication for an extended time. Then she secured the device and proceeded into the cooking space where Tyler positioned wiping a vessel with an aged patterned cloth. "I'm not returning," she declared. He didn't elevate his gaze immediately. "Certain?" "Yes," she affirmed. "I've been presented more funds than I could ever expend. But not once in all those periods, did I awaken sensing as I do here." He pivoted to her, gaze earnest. "How do you sense here?" She paused, then replied. "Authentic. Noticed. Protected." He assented once. That was all he required. By dawn, they had assembled a sack. Tyler placed Lily into the vehicle and transported them from the metropolis, along curving paths bordered with foliage that had just started to shift amber with the approaching autumn. They reached a serene rural home, concealed behind a cluster of pale trees. It pertained to Tyler's parent, a withdrawn caregiver with gentle silver strands and palms that understood how to cause anyone to feel youthful again. She glanced once at Isabel, posed no inquiries, and remarked, "There's fresh loaf in the warmer and a tidy resting place above." That evening, beneath a heavens brimming with lights and hush, Isabel and Tyler positioned on the veranda stairs, a faded cover spread over their legs. "I once believed I possessed all," she expressed, "designations, holdings, dominance." He uttered nothing, merely awaited. "And yet," she proceeded, "it was all empty. I didn't grasp how much I had surrendered just to be viewed as triumphant." Tyler consumed a gradual taste of brew, then articulated, "They only perceived your label, not you." She assented. "Precisely." He gazed across the meadow, tone subdued. "I comprehend that sensation. To be perceived as something you're not." She pivoted to him. "Inform me." He inhaled deeply. "There was a blaze. Ages ago. Compact dwelling. I was the initial responder. Extracted a young child." She could detect the constriction in his tone now. "She didn't survive. I executed all possible, but it wasn't sufficient." She extended for his palm. "You still bear it, don't you?" He assented. "Daily." There was no necessity to elaborate. The hush among them was not burdensome. It was mutual. Respected. She didn't saturate it with regrets. He didn't saturate it with boldness. They merely positioned there, their digits linked under the nocturnal heavens. Two individuals who had each forfeited something and now, subdued, had commenced to discover something else. They didn't discuss affection. Or vows. But when Tyler glanced at her, and she encountered his gaze without recoiling, they both grasped. They were anticipating one another. And neither was anticipating solitarily anymore. The conference chamber was chillier than she recalled. Not in warmth, but in vibe. Gleaming transparent barriers, stone grounds, and metallic elements mirrored every barren segment of the area where Isabel Monroe had once dominated focus with merely a peak. Now, she hobbled. Her strides resonated in a regular beat, one bass slightly trailing from the recovering foot. She donned no elegant attire. No gem ornaments. Just a neat deep blue ensemble and resolve glowing in her gaze like flame declining to fade. Every mind pivoted. The murmurs initiated promptly. She returned. She truly appeared. What is she considering? But no one impeded her. David Langston positioned at the chamber's forefront, complacent, at ease in the position that once was hers. He grinned mockingly, inclining into the speaker. "Miss Monroe," he uttered, exuding artificial courtesy. "How unforeseen. I presumed you ultimately embraced your role away from the council." Isabel didn't waver. She proceeded directly to the room's core, stabilizing herself with one palm on the surface as she confronted the assembly of investors, leaders, and past supporters. Her tone was distinct, unquavering. "I returned to conclude this appropriately." David parted his lips to reply, but she elevated her palm. Composed, hushed, command, the type she used to handle like a edge. I may not progress as I once did, she expressed, peeking briefly at her foot, but I position higher now because I position for myself. The chamber quieted. With one press on her device, the expansive displays behind her illuminated. Charts. Communications. Private notes. All of it flowed into the space. Evidence of the deceitful transactions, altered pacts, and the inner deceit arranged by David and various other council members. Inhales of shock disrupted the quiet. A few individuals adjusted uneasily in their positions. Isabel pivoted gradually, establishing visual contact with each individual in the space. You assumed I vanished because I was fragile, she stated, but I departed because I required room to recall who I was before you all persuaded me I must be another. David rose suddenly, attempting to reclaim authority. This is imprudent. Do you comprehend what this might expense you? She regarded him, truly regarded, and perceived for the first occasion how diminutive he really was. I do, she affirmed, and I'm prepared to settle it. She extracted a record from her holder and positioned it on the surface with intentional accuracy. This is my official withdrawal. Effective. Promptly. I'm surrendering my role, my portions, and every final fragment of authority you ever believed you possessed over me. The quiet that ensued was deafening. You can retain your council positions, your equity choices, your domain constructed on dread and quiet, she appended. But I will no longer participate. One of the investors, an elder female who had guided Isabel in her initial periods, inclined forward. Her tone broke as she murmured. Why? Isabel's tone gentled, but acquired even greater force. Because I am not an item. I am not a label. I am not a negotiation piece in another's contest. I am an individual. The elder female assented gradually, suppressing emotion. David, still upright, attempted once more. You'll lament this. You're discarding all. Isabel offered him one final peek. No, she affirmed. I'm departing from something that never genuinely pertained to me initially. She assembled her device and holder with subdued elegance. As she departed, step by hobbling step, no one ventured to halt her. Not this occasion. And when the lift panels sealed behind her, she didn't weep. She didn't quiver, she released air. External, the sun had started to descend. The heavens shone with warm tones and soft pinks, the metropolis below vibrating with activity. Isabel advanced onto the walkway not as a leader, but as a female who had ultimately selected herself. And for the first occasion in periods, her upper body wasn't bearing a domain, only her reality. And that was ample. When Isabel came back to the residence, it was precisely as she recalled, humble, cozy, and vibrant with subdued delight. The tardy afternoon glow poured through the cooking pane, projecting warm beams across the ground. On the modest terrace, Tyler was bent beside a container, assisting Lily excavate a faded bloom, their palms soiled with earth and resolve. Isabel positioned silently in the threshold, observing them, core abundant. She advanced out gradually, her tone affectionate. Do you possess space for one additional in this patch? Tyler elevated his gaze, his face illuminated, not with astonishment, but with the serene certainty of someone who had been anticipating. He assented once. Always. Lily dashed to Isabel, earth marked on her face and a triumphant smile extended broad. We're placing fresh blooms today. This one's going to be vibrant. You can select the following one. Isabel bent and immersed her palms into the soil with them. There, in the subdued act of placing something fresh, she felt her foundation secure. Days elapsed, and Isabel directed her vigor into something she'd only envisioned. The Lily Haven, a charitable group for females who had been controlled, mistreated, or abandoned by authority systems, like the one she fled. Tyler aided in constructing the online site. Lily demanded the title. Because blooms flourish better when they possess light, Lily clarified, and affection. At the heart of the Lily Haven's purpose was this concept. No one should have to earn.